Ahead of the second edition of ET Infra's Global Ports and Shipping Summit, we are in a conversation with Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General at the Energy and Resources Institute, popularly known as TERI. We're going to talk about the National Center of Excellence in Green Port and Shipping, which has been set up at the Institute in collaboration with the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. The center will be responsible for creating a framework which will look into the sustainable and green ecosystem that needs to come up around India's ports and shipping sector. Thank you for engaging with us and having this conversation ahead of the ET Infra's Global Port and Shipping Summit, which is due in September. Now, TERI is playing a very crucial role in terms of the whole decarbonization ecosystem that needs to come up around India's ports and shipping ecosystem. Last year, you engaged with the Ministry of Ports and Shipping on the bringing up the Center of Excellence of Green Shipping and in ports. If you could outline in terms of the whole engagement with the Ministry of Shipping and Ports and the new Center of Excellence that have come up with TERI, its broader outlines and its role and its engagement.
Yeah, as you might be aware, TERI is known for its work on energy, environment, climate change, sustainability as a whole, whether it's in the sphere of building sustainable habitats, transportation, and so on. And that is what I told Ministry of Ports and Shipping, that we have limited experience in terms of shipping or managing ports that way. So it's a sort of symbiotic association because, see, they are experts. They know their subject very well. And we know how to bring in renewables and sustainability concept into the whole thing. Why it is becoming important for port and shipping sector? Of course, when we talk at the global level, we are talking about that the impacts of climate change, they are far uglier than what we predicted and so on. And thus, as a country, or I'll say at the global level, now the concerns are how do we reduce GHG emissions? And it comes true for every industry, whether it is shipping, whether it is aviation. We are talking about sustainable aviation fuel and so on. Now, if we look at the shipping industry, it's very interesting. Of course, most in transportation sector are, but if we look at shipping, it is that your ship is going to be in water for so many days. Water, it definitely has some boundaries, but also there is lots of area which doesn't fall under any kind. And then it is that perhaps transportation by ship is the cheapest mode of transportation. And therefore, in years to come, when we are talking of global village, or we don't have to manufacture everything, we don't have to grow everything, the cross-boundary movement of goods is going to be more frequent. It's only going to increase in years to come. And therefore, it becomes very crucial that this sector also become an important player in this entire journey of decarbonization. And also, let's also look at what is happening by various legislations that are going to come in place. So whether we are talking of cross-boundary carbon tax, they are also going to impact countries like us. So with this background, and these are the discussions that we had with Ministry of Ports and Shipping, and that's how this idea of having National Center of Excellence on Green Port and Shipping, that was conceived, and we established this in March 23. So it's over a year, and of course, there are many, many areas, but that's what we said. We'll have to start small, and of course, we identified some priority areas, and as we move, I'm sure even those areas are going to grow further. And also, I should say, as I said, it's a symbiotic association. So we are understanding each other better. We are understanding skills that exist on both the sides better. And that is how it will be, that we will also be able to convince them that if you are talking of decarbonization, where is it that research should be concentrated, and where is it that we have low-hanging fruits where we can immediately implement some of those strategies and take it further. So we are in that particular stage that some projects have been identified. We have started working on those projects. Some of the reports we are midway on the reports are due for finalization. We are seeking their comments. And we are also looking into international regulations very seriously because their impact of India and readiness of the country becomes extremely important.
Ma'am, the Center of Excellence, its mandate is also to create a broader framework, right, for the government, for the shipping ministry and the country as a whole, with regard to the greening of ports and shipping ecosystem. If you could outline one or two aspects of framework that TERI is currently working on, or the focus area.
Sure. See, of course, as I mentioned to you, TERI's expertise, it lies in renewable energy. And renewable energy, so assessment in ports, that is for meeting the current and the future energy requirements. And that also includes not the traditional renewable energy like solar and wind or hydro. We are also looking at the production of green hydrogen. We are looking into a roadmap for transition to cleaner and greener fuels for India and global maritime vessels. We have to set up domestic standards for biofuel blending and the marine vessels. And of course, it is not just biofuel. We also have to look into the entire value chain, whether that much of raw material can be made available, first of all. And then it is that we really don't want to change the engine design to a great extent. So we want right now to continue with the existing engine. So how much of biofuel blending can take place? We also have to look into the current energy consumption and emission profiles of ports, and then look into what is going to be the cost of transition and what are the new innovations that are being carried out and how they are going to means if they want to change those innovations, what is going to be the cost? Because let's also realize that someone has to put the bill, and will it be the consumer or will it be the shipping companies? They can't afford it, and therefore it has to ultimately be by either the subsidies by the government or by the consumer. And therefore, one has to look at very carefully who will do it and what is going to be the cost of transition. The other small things, which in a way we ignore, and in a way you will also realize that these days when we travel at the airport, they say that right now we can't park it, there is no this thing free, and therefore 15 minutes to half an hour you are sitting in the aircraft and you use so much of energy, which is you are wasting that energy. And same holds, or rather, the situation in ports is even worse. So they don't get berthing place, and therefore they are standing there for days together. So just on-time arrival of ships at ports, and that also calls for better communication network and logistic management. Because why they are not getting the place? Because the other ship which is at the port, it's taking long time either to put the stuff or remove the stuff. So if we can also look into the logistic part of it, that you take minimum time uh, for all these. Let's also look at when you are talking of ports, greening of ports. It's not just the ships. It's every truck which comes there. So you also have to look into that fleet and the time it is taking you. Then there are many things which require a bit of, I should say, quite a bit of research. Like what kind of lights, like LED won't work at the ports. You also have to look into that the humidity over there is always high. So taking care of all these things, we have to look into that the research part of it, the part that, okay, then how much of savings are actually there, and all this, because till now GHG emissions were never counted for shipping industry. So if we are trying to introduce few things, and let's also look into, is there a possibility to give them incentives through green credits? They deserve it. So therefore, let's look into all those things. That is what TERI is trying to bring out with the help of well-researched papers on various issues and topics which are related to green shipping. We are also looking into green shipping corridors, which will be launched in the upcoming Reinvest. And we are also, along with the Ministry of Ports and Shipping, we are also looking into the strategy and development under Navis Cell, some of the initiatives that we are doing. Yeah.
Ma'am, in the conversation right now, you also touched upon the biofuels. Now, greening of bunkering fuel is going to be the most, foremost measures that countries globally will take. In the aviation sector, 1% blending of biofuel with ATF is something has been envisaged. Now, in this particular sector or in this particular domain, now I'm assuming that you'll also have to engage with the Ministry of Petroleum. So, if any sort of a brief or outline you could give in terms of the incorporating the biofuel into the ports and shipping ecosystem, how's those developments are panning out?
See, really speaking, if we are looking at um, use of biofuels, the type of fuels that is being used in the ships, that is quite of an inferior quality. And therefore, mixing with biofuels is going to be very easy. You really don't have to even change anything. Now, what is the biggest problem in this case is, do we have that much of raw material? Because biofuel production itself, the greatest challenge today is, can we produce the kind of quantities that are required at an affordable price? And same is going to be true with shipping. And in shipping, we are also looking into new fuels like hydrogen. Can we replace it? And that, of course, requires that you really have to invest in the kind of machinery you require. The shipping, the entire design has to be changed. So, but then again, it is availability of hydrogen. Biofuels, what I'm saying is, it can be a reality today, provided we have the entire value chain availability of biofuels, if available at an affordable price. So,
Right. So, as a matter of fact, I think our Indian shipyard, or more specifically Cochin shipyard, have taken the initial steps. They, I think, recently launched the green hydrogen, based cell vessels, and I think those have been the first steps. Even the SOPs for the green trucks have come out. How do you see these measures? Because that the shipyards would also play a very crucial role. Because unless they come with new line of vessels, new technology vessels, there would still be a more ropeway or a length ahead, to broaden the green shipping ecosystem.
yeah, you are absolutely right, and I must compliment Cochin Shipyard and the Harit Sagar Guidelines 2020. Those were lined because that reflects the country's vision of making its port more environment friendly and sustainable. Now, the point which you touched upon, and I mentioned to you that the research work or the vision that Cochin Shipyard has done, that is remarkable. But let me also say that that is something which we have to adopt. It's inevitable because otherwise you're out of business. If Cochin Shipyard has to continue manufacturing ships and exporting them, they have to follow the international regulations. And sooner they do, better it is. That is what is being tried by them under the guidance of the government of India, because government of India is also putting some of these regulations or guidelines in place. So, of course, it is something like those are voluntary at the moment, and therefore someone has to be forthcoming, and that is what is Cochin Shipyard. So they are forthcoming in adopting those guidelines or showing the way that this can be done so that the government of India can also develop maybe even guidelines which are more akin to international practices. But that is what we have to do. And also the international IMO, Maritime Organization. So we also have to abide to their regulation. And therefore, what one is trying to achieve, I should say, whether it is Cochin Shipyard or TERI or this National Center of Excellence, we are basically looking into that in years to come. And when we are talking of Maritime Amrit Kal Vision 2047, which was launched last year, and it's the guiding document in shaping India's maritime sector and taking it towards complete sustainability, we have to take these steps and graduate from what technologies we have and invest in technology and then take to, or rather adopt much better technologies.
Ma'am, another question. You touched upon, IMO, and at the end of the day, obviously, IMO looking at much from a global perspective, to ensure that they are in adherence to the Paris, climate change agreement. With regard to, India, with the both Ministry of Shipping and even if TERI is included, what has been the nature of engagement with the IMO? Because I'm quite sure a certain degree of collaboration and guidance would also be needed because they are looking after the overall maritime organization globally. So how those engagement has been?
Well, I'll be very frank with you because till now we don't have any direct contact with IMO. What we are trying to do is we are looking at their rules, their regulations, and through Ministry of Ports and Shipping, because wherever they require guidance from us that this is what IMO is going to implement or this is what IMO is seeking advice on, that is where TERI is getting involved. We are not working directly with IMO at the moment.
Right. One last question. The European countries, especially Denmark and Norway, if I may say, are pretty much evangelical when it comes to, anything green. Because unlike even the Americans, they take, the whole greening of the energy ecosystem, take it very seriously, and they're at the forefront of it. I'm quite sure much of the, in terms of the technological know-how, in terms of all the systems and processes that these countries, especially Norway and Denmark, are taking, and they have always been lead in terms of the shipping industry. So our engagement with them, I'm quite sure on a bilateral level, even through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, something must be happening on that front.
Yeah, Denmark, of course, they have signed an MOU with the Ministry of Ports and Shipping, and rather it was signed when our Prime Minister had visited their country, and that was that they'll extend all possible help. In fact, there is one scientist in the ministry specifically sitting to guide us. With Norway also, we have very good relations, and the technology that is with them, they are willing to share with us, they are willing to tell us what is happening. But yes, we also have to strengthen that further because there are two things. One is come and see what we are doing, and the other is tech transfer. So we haven't reached the technology transfer stage. But then I'll say you also have to take baby steps. Your conditions, like if we look in Norway, they have more of wind energy while we have more of solar. So even an onshore, offshore renewable energy potential of the two countries is different. So it is not plug and play. It is that, yes, it exists. So what can be adopted to our condition? So that's what we are working on.
Thank you, ma'am. Really appreciate it, having this virtual conversation with us before the, ports and shipping event that is scheduled for September. Really appreciate you taking out your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.